It's Friday, June 20th, 2025, and we have an enhanced risk of severe weather up here in the northern plains from North Dakota into northern Minnesota. We have a slight risk of severe weather extending that. Then our entire risk of severe weather up here in this region extends from the mountain west all the way into the northern Midwest. Then we have a couple areas of interest, one down here in southeastern Colorado and northeastern New Mexico, associated with the small risk of severe winds, and the same for up here in Iowa. We have an enhanced 10% hatched risk of tornadoes up here in parts of North Dakota and Minnesota. And then our main tornado risk extends from eastern Montana all the way into parts of northern Wisconsin and northern Michigan. So the threat of intense tornadoes is definitely there today. We also have a 30% moderate hatched risk of severe winds up here in parts of North Dakota and Minnesota, with our main risk extending all the way from Montana to northern Michigan as well. And this could bring the threat of gust up to 80 miles an hour in our main risk area. Then we also have a moderate 30% hatched risk of hail in parts of North Dakota and northern Minnesota, with our main risk area also stretching from Montana all the way to northern Michigan. And this will bring the threat of hail up to 2 to 3 inches in our main risk area today. Here's our simulated reflectivity from the HRRR, and we can see that we're going to get loads of intense storms out here, high late afternoon to the evening hours, mostly in northern North Dakota and into Minnesota. And pushing forward just a bit, we can see that these storms are expected to be pretty intense with strong rotating updrafts. But although these storms look pretty intense, the tornado threat with them is going to be actually lower, and the main threat with these is going to be damaging winds and hail. But definitely in their earlier stages of life, before they turn into a storm cluster, when they're more discrete, they could still pose that threat for intense tornadoes. And this is because the prime tornado environment is actually going to be in northeastern South Dakota to southeastern North Dakota, but we can see that all these are very obviously above that environment. And then it's also important to mention there will be some convection out here in eastern Montana, and that's expected to bring a mostly wind and hail risk as well. But going into the night hours, our storms out here in Minnesota and North Dakota are expected to turn into a mainly wind-producing cluster of storms, with the threat of a couple of spin-up tornadoes and possibly some small hail coming in along with that as well. Here are our upper air wind maps to really see what's causing that large-scale forcing, and we can see that we have a trough across this region bringing southwesterly flow to our main risk area up here. And what we're going to look for are little short waves or ripples in this trough, which could help to activate storms in our main risk area. And what's interesting is that our main risk area is actually going to be fairly strongly capped. So they're going to need a big ripple or a lot of forcing to really force up storms. And that just doesn't appear to be really happening out here until the evening hours, when we get a big surge or ripple in our trough, which is going to help to initiate storms up here. But something about this is that there's going to be so much forcing from the low-level jet and the upper-level winds that these storms are mostly expected to be linear and not discrete. Another thing to mention is that our 700 millibar flow will be pretty solid in our main risk area, and this is something that's important for tornadogenesis. Here's a weather sounding from our main risk area in northeastern South Dakota and southeastern North Dakota. And we can see that the ingredients out here are going to be pretty absurd. We have a big curve in our hodograph, and then it kind of straightens out. We have over 500 surface helicity and 34 knots of low-level shear, so more than ample. And then we have 54 knots of deep-level shear to help spin those updrafts and really make them strong. Our lowest cloud levels are going to be low enough to support that tornado threat. We have wind veering, which is going to help to spin those updrafts and support that tornado and large hail threat. Our mid-level lapse rates are going to be really high at 9.6 Celsius decreasing per kilometer, with a large amount of CAPE right here near our freezing level, which is one of the reasons why we're expecting to see large hail up to 2 to 3 inches in this region today. Our CAPE is going to be pretty high out here at eclipsing 4,000 joules per kilogram, so absolutely a very juiced up air mass. Our precipitable water is going to be 1.8 inches, supporting that threat for severe winds. And our downdraft CAPE is going to be 1,800, which would also support that threat for severe wind gusts and storms if they do fire out here. And that if is going to be really big today because, as you can see, we have loads of capping in the lower levels and also dry air aloft, which is going to suppress the upward growth of these storms. And that's why we're not really expecting to see storms in this risk area where our ingredients are going to be most prevalent. But even a little further north, where we are expecting storms, we're still expecting to see similar hodographs to this with plenty of low-level shear. But the main issue with those storms are that they're going to be linear fairly quickly. So definitely in the earlier stages of those storms, if they can get their act together pretty quickly before they turn into a line, a strong to intense tornado could definitely be possible out there. So that is why the SPC has issued that 10% hatched risk over that region. And in our Montana risk area, we see that we have definitely enough deep layer shear, and we see some curvature in our hodograph, but our low level helicity is going to be almost nothing, and our low level shear is also going to be almost nothing. And our deep layer shear is definitely going to be enough, eclipsing that 40 knot threshold at 48 knots. Our LCLs are going to be higher out here, but they're definitely low enough to still support a small tornado threat. We have some veering in our winds up here to help spin those updrafts. Our low level lapse rates are quite good, and we have a decent bit of cape up here near our freezing level, coupled with a good lapse rate at 8.6 Celsius decreasing per kilometer, which is going to help to support that large hail threat out here. We see some dry air loft, which could help to lift these storms and increase the speed of downdrafts. Our cape is going to be quite good out here at over 3,000 joules per kilogram, so absolutely a juiced up air mass. Our precipitable water is going to be 1.47 inches, so nothing crazy, but definitely enough to possibly accelerate those downdrafts. And our downdraft cape is going to be at 1,000, so nothing wild. But our surface cape, or 3 cape, is going to be over 100 at 122. So that's going to help to fuel that wind and hail threat and help support the threat for the possibility of a tornado or two with the storms in eastern Montana. So in summary, the main threats for our eastern Montana and western North Dakota region are going to be wind and large hail with the possibility of a tornado or two. And our main risk area is absolutely going to be in eastern North Dakota to northeastern South Dakota into Minnesota.